or like a chat start soon screen. We weren't able to affect that, but we did get the chat here. So if you're out there, this is Attorney Alexander Napolin. Alexander Napolin, Attorney at Large, goes live every day at 10 o'clock and 4 p.m. Have little segments each a day. I will answer your questions in the chat. I'll also go over a current event from a legal perspective. Remember that if you ask questions in the chat, if they're related to a specific legal issue that you're going through, that the opposing party can and may discover the information that you put online. So be very careful. We're streaming on Twitch. We're streaming on YouTube right now. This is Alexander Napolin, Attorney at Live. I always say that. Alexander Napolin, Attorney at Large, goes live. This is a live session where you can hop on, you can ask questions about current events, you can ask specific legal questions about your situation. But remember, it's not legal advice, it's general in nature only. So just keep that in mind as we go through this stuff. So I'm going to flip over here to the current event for today, which is a report that there is a class action loss complaint filed in the U.S. District Court on Friday. Okay, this lawsuit is against Kia Sorento. Johnson's Kia Sorento was stolen on the morning of August 24th. So basically, Johnson is alleging that Kia has a defect, is defective and more susceptible to theft. So apparently the steering column where you put the key in, it can be popped off because of a design flaw, and then a thief can insert a knife or a USB port with a USB port. I don't know. I think they mean like the end of a USB plug could be used to turn the car on. And interestingly enough, I also found another article on Fox saying, and the police say TikTok led Kia Hyundai car thefts increasing across the country as lawsuits mount. So basically, the Kia boys are on TikTok, and they're teaching everybody how to pop off the Kia and Hyundai columns and get a knife in there, and then that can just turn the car on. Now, the lawsuit that's against Kia by Johnson specifically says, I believe, there's not much on this in this article. I believe it's down here. Yes. So, the vehicles are defective in that, among other things, defendants manufactured and designed them without engine immobilizers, an electronic security device that makes it impossible, virtually impossible, to start a vehicle without a key unless the vehicle's computer has been altered. So basically, Kia cut a corner, didn't put these these engine immobilizers in their cars, which then made them susceptible to theft. And now, because of viral TikTok videos, the Kia boys who are sharing this information across the United States, there's a 1,300% increase in the theft of Kias across the United States. These are Kias 2015 to 2021. Honda's equipped with ignitions requiring mechanical keys. No. Mainly 2011 to 2021 Kias, 2015 to 2021 Hondas. They're equipped with ignition requiring mechanical keys. They don't have the engine immobilizers. And that is our current event for today. So, interesting lawsuit. I don't know if it has anything to it. I'm not super privy as to whether or not car manufacturers are liable for this type of situation where they allow maybe if they knew that this was going to potentially happen and that people were going to get their car stolen because of this, then it might be that they were negligent in allowing this to be manufactured in this way. This goes back to the Ford Pinto cases. The Ford Pinto cases alleged that Ford in the Ford Pinto forwent or did not put in protection around the gas tank, which was mounted near the back. And because of that, the cars were more likely to explode and a fire to be started in a rear end collision. But the management at Ford, the executives, or whoever was making the decision maker decided to not spend the $5 or $10 extra on something that would protect the engine from blowing up, because they determined that the prevalence of it blowing up and the amount of lawsuits that they'd have to pay for any type of injuries that were caused would be less than the part that they'd have to put in the car, and it would make it feasible for them to sell more automobiles. And it was a pure economic decision that affected people's lives. And a jury came back and said, no, you can't do that. You can't make those types of decisions against the consumer. You have to make sure that you're manufacturing something that's meets a level of safety, a certain level of safety, and that trade-off should not be used. Where, okay, and maybe in this circumstance, Kia made a similar decision. We don't know, but maybe they did make a similar decision to not put in the ignition or the engine immobilizers, because those would cost X amount of dollars more, and they knew that the cars would be stolen, but they realized that any thefts would just be on the consumer and they wouldn't really be liable for that. So they just went ahead and made a car that didn't have an adequate security system. Now, they didn't know at the time, maybe back in 2011 when they designed the car, 2015 for Hyundais. These appear to be the years that are in question here, 2011 to 2021 Kias, and 2015 to 2021 Hyundais. Maybe they didn't realize at the time that there was going to be viral TikTok videos going all over the country and telling everybody how to break into these particular cars. So maybe that's something that wasn't in their minds. But certainly if hundreds and hundreds of these cars are getting stolen across the United States, maybe there is something to the class action. If Kia realized that this was a situation and decided to cut corners and not put in the engine immobilizers. Now, of course, they're selling cars and they have a price point to meet, so they're all cutting corners here and there to get the price so that it can be manufactured for consumers, and that has to be taken into consideration. So any type of lawsuit, any type of situation, I guess would have to balance those two, the risks versus how much the car is going to cost, because ultimately we can make a car that's like infinitely safe, right? We could build a tank, but only one person could drive in that car, only one person. So we can make safety one car that's perfectly safe. So obviously cars are going to have some safety issues, but there is a standard of care that cars must meet. I mean, there are certain things that we say no car should be manufactured unless it has some type of security system that can stop it from getting broken into. Otherwise, you're selling a bunch of cars to consumers, and then TikTok videos start going around, and before you know it, everybody's getting their car stolen. I mean, you would say to the manufacturer, hey, you did something wrong. You made a decision that was going to have a significant impact on the consumer. And the consumer might have wanted to know, hey, does this car have an adequate security system? And maybe if you told the person, hey, this car has no adequate security system, it could be stolen at any time, and take it or leave it, buy this car. I don't know. So this will be an evolving story. We'll have to check in on this lawsuit, this class action lawsuit. This is a class action filed in Milwaukee. So a class action is a lawsuit filed on behalf of a class of people who have been affected in the same way. Now, I filed some class actions myself, but I mostly have pursued mass torts in my career so far. And a mass tort is different, or a multi-plaintiff action is a little different than a class action. Class action has a class representative, and that class representative kind of has a similar type of position as all the other people in the class, and that gives the court the ability to award out damages without having to do an extensive workup of each individual case. They can kind of be, okay, your car got stolen. How much should you be paid for having your car stolen? Did your car get stolen and then it never was returned? It was destroyed. Well, what's the cost of the car? Oftentimes when you're dealing with personal injury, you don't have class actions because everybody's damages are so different. The court just wouldn't be able to easily manage all those different damages that came about from all those different individual situations. So with personal injury, you're mostly focused on individual actions, but in this situation, I haven't read the lawsuit, but apparently they believe that every consumer who bought one of these cars is probably entitled to some remedy. Maybe they should be fixed. Maybe Kia, for any of these cars, you have to fix this problem, and all the people who own these cars should have this fix done. That could be the remedy. Anyway, it looks like Kia has already, made changes to their design and updated the 2022 Kias so this problem doesn't happen again. But what about all those hundreds of thousands of cars that are out on the road right now that are susceptible to the Kia boys on TikTok? I think that's probably what the class action is aiming at. Any questions in the chat? If I have anybody watching live out on Twitch, out on YouTube, Alexander Napolin, attorney at large, goes live every day, 10 a.m., 4 p.m., every weekday, every work day, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. I have my chat up here. You can type things into the chat. Let's go ahead and test it out. If you have legal questions, you can ask them in the chat, or you can dial 866-NAPOLIN and get a free legal consultation. Now, free legal consultations with a California licensed attorney. If you're in another state, I'll have to refer you to another lawyer. Maybe I have someone who can help you. Maybe I can shoot you in the right direction, give you somewhere to, get some legal help. So TikTok users are posting videos under the hashtag Kia Boys, teaching people how to start Kia or Hyundai vehicles without keys using the tip of a phone charger or USB cable, prompting juveniles across the country to attempt the challenge. This is from the St. Petersburg Police Department. Oh boy, Illinois authorities recently reported a 767% increase in Hyundai and Kia vehicle thefts in the Chicago area since the beginning of July compared to last year. So TikTok Kia boys coming around for Kia. So as soon as one of these defects gets exposed, boom, TikTokers are on it. I'm just going to go back to my screen here. I have, I can show you, my article. I can kind of flip back here and you can just look at me. I'm taking a look at the chat. I don't see anybody's in the chat. I don't see I have any live viewers, but I do go live every day, every weekday at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. I go live for 15 to 30 minutes to discuss a current event from the legal perspective and answer your questions in the chat. So if you're out there, just hop into the chat and let's talk about this legal story. Ask me a question. Do you drive a Kia? Are you out there? Do you drive a Kia? Do you drive a Hyundai? Do you drive a Kia? Maybe you have a class action. Now, the way that class actions work is you will be opted in unless you opt out. So you should receive something in the mail that says, hey, you owned a Kia, these years. Are you going to, would you like to be part of the lawsuit? Then you don't have to do anything. This is the difference between a multi-plaintiff case where there's many people who got hurt from one situation, but they're all hurt in different ways. For example, the Route 91 shootings where Stephen Paddock shot up everyone at the Mandalay Bay. That was an MGM hotel. And all of those people had separate legal claims because their damages were too different from each other to have a class. So what had to be done is all those people had to sign up individually and claims had to be presented to MGM individually. And then there had to be a process that was set up in order for allocating the settlement. Class action is a little different. In a class action, the remedy can be dealt out in a similar way for everybody. So there's not like a very different amount of damages for everybody who has experienced the wrongdoing. So like, for example, if everybody owned a credit card and everybody got charged an extra 35 cents, depending on how many transactions you did, it was 35 cents per transaction, and everybody on a certain day got overcharged. Depending on how many transactions you did, you had 3 or 4 violations and someone else had only 1. But that type of situation, a court, a judge can easily determine, how much to allocate per violation, how many violations there were, who's part of the class, they're all similarly situated, versus somebody who got shot at the Route 91 versus somebody who just tripped and fell. Those are very different types of damages that the court can't just say, okay, 35 cents, we'll give you 5 of those, we'll give you 1 of those. It's like, okay, there's very different types of damages here. So that's the difference between a multi-plaintiff and a class action. Here is class actions being brought. If you have any questions out there in the chat, this is Alexander Napolin, attorney at Large Goes Live every weekday at 10 a.m., every afternoon at 4 p.m., discussing legal topics, discussing current events from the legal perspective, answering your questions in the chat. Remember that everything I say here is general in nature only. You ask questions, I create hypotheticals, I come up with situations, I entertain you, you get some knowledge, you're more wise, and you learned about a new current event, and you know a little bit more about how to protect yourself. And if you need a lawyer, you can come to me. I'm a California attorney, and I am streaming live every day at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. So I'll have to probably come up with a game or something to play. One story is probably not enough for 30 minutes of talking time. Just going over and taking a look at my my stream. It looks like my stream's good. I'm streaming over to Twitch. I'm streaming over to YouTube. Alexander Napolin, attorney at Large Goes Live. I have 0 viewers, but I'm just going to stay on here. We're going to talk about the Kia and Hyundai thefts, which are up 1,300% since last year. Apparently in Illinois, they're up 767% since the beginning of July compared to last year. So this TikTok Kia boys has just gone crazy. The TikTok Kia boys have taught everybody how to break into Kias and Hyundais. Now there's a class action lawsuit that's up and running against Kia for, let's see if it says, ask what the remedy is supposed to be. Oh, so Hyundai representative said its company is aware of the problem that its cars meet federal safety standards. So they're basically saying, hey, look, we're not commenting on whether or not we were negligent or violated, products liability law by allowing this vulnerability to our cars. We're just saying that, hey, it met the standards. Whatever we were required to do by federal law for safety, we met that. Which is, I think that's a good point to make. I mean, you've complied with the law, but the law, it's just because you don't break a law doesn't mean you're not liable. Okay, so, if you break a law and the injury that the law was supposed to prevent results from you breaking the law, that's negligence per se. That's negligence per se. That's negligence as a matter of law. But just because you don't break the law, just because you weren't speeding, okay, doesn't mean, you shouldn't. I guess, if you change lanes into someone, that's technically a violation. That's changing lanes without a clear spot to change lanes to, tailgating, speeding, all those things. You're breaking the law. But let's say you're never prosecuted for that. Let's say you met all of those safety standards and you still caused the accident somehow. Failed to yield a right-of-way. I guess with traffic accidents, you're really probably dealing with a safety violation, even if it's not a violation of law. Most of the times in traffic situations, though, there is a violation of law, but oftentimes the police do not hand out a traffic citation. They might state in the traffic collision report that a certain law was violated, and that's what they believe led to the accident. Anyway, let's see what Kia says. A Kia representative says the company does not comment on active or pending litigation. The lawsuit is seeking awarded damages in an amount to be determined at trial. Okay, so the lawsuit apparently doesn't ask for repair of all of the outstanding defective ignitions. It just asks for seeking damages in an amount to be determined at trial. Interesting. So we talked about the Ford Pinto case. This is a popular situation that happened and I'm going to go over that really quickly here for my viewers. Ford engineers considered numerous solutions to the fuel tank problem. This is going back to the Ford Pinto case. So in the Ford Pinto, let's just read here. Internal company documents showed that Ford secretly crash tested the Pinto more than 40 times before it went on the market, and that the Pinto's fuel tank ruptured in every test performed at speeds over 25 miles per hour. This rupture created a risk of fire. Ford engineers considered numerous solutions to the fuel tank problem, including lining the fuel tank with a nylon bladder at a cost of $5.25 to $8 per vehicle. Now remember, this is back in the day, so 1981 or before. So I mean, these dollars were a little bit more. $8 now is almost nothing. Adding structural protection in the rear of the car at a cost of $4.20 per vehicle, and placing a plastic baffle between the fuel tank and the differential housing at a cost of $1 per vehicle. None of these protective devices were used. Adding to the pressure to ignore these safety costs was Lee Iacocca's stated goal that the Pinto was not to weigh an ounce over 2,000 pounds and not to cost a cent over 2,000. So even when a crash test showed that a 1 pound, $1 piece of plastic prevented the gas tank from being punctured, the alternative was thrown out as extra cost and extra weight. Okay. So they needed a lower price car. You need a low price car to compete. What corners can you cut? This was 1971 line. So this is a long time ago, actually. So what this basically, there was a lawsuit, and ultimately it was determined that Ford shouldn't have made this decision to make the car that was so unsafe, despite having to keep the costs down. There was going to be some oversight. I'm looking at this article here. Sorry, I didn't show it to y'all. There was going to be some oversight that the government, that a court could, under American tort law, that the court could basically say, hey, you were negligent in making that decision. There's certain things that you just can't cut corners on. There's certain safety protocols, standards that must be met. Anyway, okay, so I've been live for 22 minutes. We've been discussing, it looks like we've been discussing the Kia thefts are up 1,300%. They spark lawsuit for manufacturer defect. Well, look, it met the safety standards the federal government put out. Is that a defect? It could still be a defect. But we're going to have to wait and see what happens here. I mean, Kia, and it looks like Hyundai will probably soon to follow, that they're going to fix these issues for the 2022 models. Maybe this whole thing will die out. Maybe all of the Kias will get stolen, and that will be the end of it. Anyway, Alexander Napolin, attorney at large, goes live every weekday, 10 a.m. and 4 p.m., discussing a current event from a legal perspective and answering your questions in the chat. It is Monday. It's Labor Day. It's September 5th. I'm going live here because I'm in the office and I've been working on my statute of limitations deadlines. So I'm going through all of my files, all the people who I represent, and I'm looking over when the certain deadline is to file their case. So it looks like I'm pretty far out. I'm about 6 months from my next statute of limitations period. But sometimes they can get close. I get people who come to me towards the end of the 2-year limitation period in California. So if you're injured in California, you have 2 years to file your lawsuit. So somebody comes to me after a year and says, hey, I need to file a lawsuit, but they haven't worked up their case. They don't have all their medical records. They haven't gotten an MRI. There's issues. So go to a lawyer and speak to an attorney as soon as possible. Some states, the statute of limitations, which is the period of time to bring a lawsuit, might be less than 2 years. Okay, there's certainly certain things that could be less than 2 years. So if you're injured in California in an automobile accident with a private party, by a private person, it's 2 years from the date of the incident. So you count 2 years from that day. So if it's September 5th, 2022, you go to September 5th, 2024. And on that day, that's the last day, you have to have a lawsuit stamped at the appropriate courthouse on that day. And if you don't, you lose your right to forever to file that case. So it's important that you bring lawsuits in a timely manner. Anybody out there, I'm out there on Twitch, hop into the chat, follow me. Tune in each day, get some information. I'm talking every day about the law. about different current events from a legal perspective. You're out there, you're playing video games, you're watching your friends online. That's great. Hop into my chat, get a notification, and let's talk about the law. So yeah, we're just talking about the Grimshaw versus Ford Motor Company. This is a 1981 case. Okay, the Grimshaw and Gray family filed a tort action against Ford, and the jury awarded not only $2.5 million to the Grimshaws and $559,000 to the Grays in damages, but also $125 million to punish Ford for its conduct. Okay, Ford appealed, and the court reduced the award of punitive damages to $3.5 million. However, the court denied Ford's request to have the punitive damages award thrown out entirely, finding that Ford had knowingly endangered the lives of thousands of Pinto owners. Okay, well, maybe Kia has knowingly allowed thousands of Kias to be stolen, and maybe they should be punished. Now, we're not dealing with personal injury here, so I don't know how egregious the behavior could be for punitive damages against Kia and Hyundai. I mean, in the Pinto cases, people were dying. There was fires. There was burn injuries, the whole 9 yards, all the horrible things that juries just really cringe at. Death, children, burns, things like that. At the Kia case, not so much. Anyone out in the chat there? Let's see if I have any live viewers. No, I got me on TikTok, which is me. I mean on Twitch. Now, if I'm in a stream, maybe I can just go live into another stream by adding that here. Like, can I just pop on to this one? Okay, let's see if we added that. Oh, I'm sending data now to my other YouTube station. So if you're out there, this is Alexander Napolin, attorney at large, goes live every weekday, 10 a.m. and 4 p.m., discussing current events from a legal perspective and also answering your questions in the chat. I am going to be answering your questions in the chat. I can say, hey, if you're out there, you want some legal help, you hop into the chat, you ask me. You dial 866-NAPOLIN to find me directly. My name's Attorney Alexander Napolin. Alexander Napolin, attorney at large, goes live. I call myself attorney at large because I'm not really acting as an attorney when I'm on here. I'm really just entertaining you. I'm helping you understand current events from a legal perspective. And then if you have questions, you can ask me those questions. Be smart. Share at your own risk. If you are identifiable, then later, if you're involved in a lawsuit or something else, and you've been discussing the specific issues that are involved in that lawsuit, that's discoverable. So always speak to an attorney in private. So I'm Alexander Napolin, attorney at large, goes live. It's entertainment only. It's not legal advice, but we are discussing current events from a legal perspective, and we are answering your questions in the chat. So today we are discussing the Hyundai and Kia thefts across the country because of the Kia and Hyundai ignitions not having, this immobilizer, they call it. Let's go down here. It's called an immobilizer, an ignition immobilizer, something that basically requires the computer to detect a key. These cars that we're talking about, these Kias and Hondas, they have just the regular mechanical keys. You pop off the thing, you jam something up in there, and boom, you turn that puppy on. And this was exploited heavily. Now Kia's being sued, and all they say, well, we met the standard. Okay. Well, if you're out there and you own a Kia between 2011 and 2021, or you own a Hyundai between 2015 and 2021, you only have a mechanical key, you're susceptible to the Kia boys' TikTok theft, which is basically someone's going to decide, oh, I want to steal this guy's car, so I'm going to go ahead and steal it, just because I can, just because the Kia boys said I could. Okay. In August, a group of 4 children between the ages of 14 and 17, they went in and they stole a 2021 Kia Forte from a rental lot because the Kia boys told them to. So, keeping my streams open, we have little things, that could come up, and I could just say, oh, Alex will be back at 4 o'clock, something like that, so that if anybody comes into the chat now, they can understand that they can ask a question, maybe come back later. Check out in my description below. Follow the links. You know. So it still says the title is Bird Scooters from yesterday or from Friday. California, and then even here it says California root fire threaten homes. I'm wondering, are we updated? We are updated. Bird suitors sued? Oh yeah, I put tips are appreciated. So if you're on Twitch, head over to my about section. Give me a tip. Oh, yeah, see? It sees that I'm on here. Cool. There's my live. Okay. Watch now. Kia thefts up 1,300%. Spark lawsuit for manufacturer defect. I'm watching it. I'm a lawyer. Come into the chat. We'll talk about your rights. Okay, there's a delay there. Not much. Okay, let's turn that off so we're not getting any feedback. Okay, so we are streaming to YouTube. We're streaming to Twitch. If you're in Twitch, I'm a California attorney. Come into my channel. Let's talk about a current event. You ask me questions in the chat. I'm going to give you the current event from my legal perspective. This is something that, it's entertainment. It's not lawyer advice. It's not legal advice. You can only get legal advice by seeking representation from an attorney, from giving your specific facts and circumstances to the lawyer and having that lawyer give you the feedback that you need. So it's just entertainment here. If you're watching my channel, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell. I'm live every day at 4 p.m. I'm live every day at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. weekdays, discussing current events from a legal perspective and taking your questions in the chat. So if you're interested in learning more about the law from current event perspective, you want to be entertained and you want your questions answered, come on into the chat daily. I'm live at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. I'm a little late today because it's Labor Day, and I'm going to be recording for my Inland Empire Workers' Compensation Lawyer live stream podcast, which we go over all the workers' compensation stuff in California. So I'm going to put a link to that in the description below. Actually, I'll just go ahead and type that in. If you're watching and you are interested in learning more about your rights, go ahead and type this into the description, into your search bar. Go over to here and type in the Inland Empire Workers' live stream. See if we can find it in the videos. See if there's anything. Doesn't even come up. Some of me in there. You probably really have to go to Google to do it. Mostly live. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to go to google.com. I love Chrome, but I can't use it for this because when you put incognito window, it doesn't show it when you're casting it through. So we'll be filming this. Whether or not you need a lawyer for a work injury, I don't know why it's in a different language. It often is in different languages. Weird. If you know what language this is, just let me know. It says at the bottom. Okay. If you're out there, I will be back at 4 p.m. My name is Alexander Napolin. Alexander Napolin, attorney at large, goes live every weekday at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. discussing current events from the legal perspective, answering your questions in the chat. I have my chat up. Go ahead and give me a question if you have it. Do I think 3M will go bankrupt? Yes. Yes, I do think 3M will go bankrupt. I do, because they're going to have to spin off. I guess they're going to spin off part of their think they're going to have to spin off part of their business just to get rid of. I should know the answer to that question. Oh, this is Miller and Zoyce. Okay, so they put out a little advertorial. So they're trying to get business here. Okay, they say on September 2nd, just days after the bankruptcy court denied 3M's motion to extend the automatic stay and effectively halt the 3M earplugs litigation, multi-district litigation, that's what it stands for, MDL Judge Casey Rogers responded by issuing a new order on Tuesday requiring 3M to take part in another settlement mediation. Judge Rogers forced 3M to take part in a settlement mediation, blah, 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 blah. I guess I haven't been following this litigation very closely. I have some clients who were in the military who I've referred out for these types of lawsuits. We have a ruling. 3M loses. Again, the bankruptcy effort failed. Justice triumphs. This time, Judge Graham ruled that Arrow's bankruptcy should have no ruling on the earplugs lawsuit. Okay. Okay, so it looks like on September 1st, 3M noted, let's see. Oh, man. 3M noted its appeal of the bankruptcy ruling on Monday. Procedurally, 3M's appeal will either go to the U.S. District Court for Indiana or the Bankruptcy Appellate Panel. I do not think even 3M's lawyers think it has much of a chance of success. Okay, so Alex Rodriguez, thank you for asking that question. I don't know if you're still out there. It's kind of off the cuff. I've got to get better at this. But yeah, it looks like, according to this attorney's office, who's been actively updating their 3M blog, blotter, says that it looks like the 3M bankruptcy has failed. Now that the bankruptcy play has failed, Judge Rogers is pushing both sides to go right back to the settlement table all over again. Plaintiffs have always wanted to settle these lawsuits. Now 3M might have a greater interest. Okay, so basically, this happens a lot in American jurisprudence. Everybody runs to bankruptcy. So it's like Johnson & Johnson, when they had the talc powder, they spin off the talc powder to another, LLC, and then they just say, well, that division's bankrupt, and we're fine, and we're profitable over here. That's what a lot of people do personally. They have businesses, and they just bankrupt out of something, and then they can bankrupt out of that business, and they have their other businesses. Whether or not this should happen, I mean, look, if you're facing catastrophic liability, I think it would probably be legal malpractice not to pursue the bankruptcy. So if you're like a lawyer and you're the lawyer for 3M, and 3M's asking, well, what can we legally do to limit our exposure to ourselves? What should we do, lawyer? The lawyer says, well, I know about this bankruptcy possibility. We could go bankrupt, and we could see if that works, see if we can do that. But anyway, so yeah, it looks like the 3M, and what they do with the settlement is the multi-district litigation judge is just going to facilitate that the parties come to some type of settlement agreement where they can, where 3M can stay alive financially, but also pay out as much as possible to these U.S. soldiers. So I think that answers your questions. Thank you, Alex, for asking it. Do you have any other questions? You're still out there? Okay, so our lawyers are handling 3M earplug lawsuits in all 50 states. So Miller and Zoyce, you can go up and give them a call. I have no financial interest with Miller and Zoyce. I just pulled them up online. I typed in some stuff to Google, and they came up as number one. So I guess that they should get the business. So yeah, the 3M combats arms earplug lawsuits. Thousands of veterans and current military service members may be entitled to receive financial compensation in the $3 million 3M earplug lawsuit for hearing loss and tinnitus caused by defective earplugs. So basically, like, these soldiers were given earplugs, and the earplugs had a little leak in them. So when the soldiers were shooting on the shooting range, they were doing practice, they were in combat, whatever it is, they fired weapons. These weapons were, creating loud sounds, and the earplugs did not adequately protect against those loud sounds. So in this situation, 3M's being sued by all these former and active service members who wore the 3M earplugs, and they're saying, hey, I have tinnitus now, I have hearing loss. Okay, so I can't hear things, or I hear a ringing in my ear. That's what tinnitus is, from these defective earplugs. And they tried to go bankrupt. They tried to tell the bankruptcy judge, hey, these lawsuits are just so big and so catastrophic against us that we're going to need to get reorganized in bankruptcy in order to pay the claims. That would basically lessen the amount, come up with some type of structure to pay these claims. And the bankruptcy judge said, no, you don't qualify. So therefore, you must go back to the settlement table all over again. And you're facing enormous external pressure from investors and financial analysts who are telling them that they have no choice but to capitulate by dropping all the legal gamesmanship and offer reasonable settlement amounts to veterans who have really suffered from these defective earplugs. Okay, so now that the bankruptcy has failed, 3M has intense pressure to settle these claims. Enormous pressure, because they can't reorganize in bankruptcy. They're facing jury trials, litigation, multi-district litigation. There's service members all across the country. And I think that helps answer your question. I don't know if you're still watching, Alex, but I really appreciate it if you hit that notification bell so you can catch me at 4 o'clock today. I'm going to sign off now. I'm going to get some lunch. Then we're meeting up to record the Inland Empire Workers' Compensation Lawyer podcast, which we go over topics for injured workers so that they can find this information online and it can really help them out. But remember, it's not legal advice. It's entertainment only.